বিদেশ থেকে বিভিন্ন দেশের প্রতিনিধিদের নিয়ে আজ কাল এবং পরশু 3 দিনের এই আলোচনা সভা। তার শুরুর দিন লাঞ্চের বিরতির পর আমরা আবার শুরু করতে চলছি। মধ্যাহ্নভোজের বিরতির পর আবার আজকের এই আলোচনা চক্র। আমি মঞ্চে ডেকে নেব আমাদের মধ্যে যারা বিদেশ থেকে এসছেন, থাইল্যান্ড, শ্রীলঙ্কা, জাপান, কোরিয়া, কম্বোডিয়া, মায়ানমার, তো প্রত্যেক দেশের প্রতিনিধিরা যারা এসে উপস্থিত তাদেরকে আমরা মঞ্চে ডেকে নেব। যদি হ্যাঁ, তো হ্যাঁ, ম্যাডামের নামটা আমি এখান থেকে নিচ্ছি। হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ স্যার, ম্যাডাম আগে বলুন, ম্যাডামকে একটু কাইন্ডলি ম্যাডামের ডিটেলসটা। হ্যাঁ, তাহলে সুবিধা হবে আপনাকে প্রফেসর। হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, আপনাকেও সাথে দিয়ে মঞ্জুরি ভরে না হলে ভালো রাখ। হ্যাঁ স্যার, হ্যাঁ আচ্ছা, ওনারা এটাতে আছেন, এটা আচ্ছা, বাইরে এটাতে হচ্ছে। হ্যাঁ, একটা ছোট্ট অ্যানাউন্সমেন্ট। পূর্ব মেদিনীপুর স্বাস্থ্য দপ্তর থেকে স্বাস্থ্য শিবিরের আয়োজন বাইরে অনুষ্ঠিত হয়ে চলছে। তো এটা একটা অ্যানাউন্সমেন্ট ছোট্ট, বাইরে শিবিরটা চলছে। তো আপাতত আমরা আজকের এই 3 দিনের আলোচনা চক্রে মধ্যাহ্নভোজনের পর উপস্থিত। আমাদের মধ্যে রয়েছেন প্রফেসর মঞ্জুরি বারুদেরা স্যার, ম্যাম, অ্যাসোসিয়েট প্রফেসর অ্যান্ড হেড অফ HOD ডিপার্টমেন্ট অফ ইমিউনোলজি, তিলক মহারাষ্ট্র বিদ্যাপীঠ, পুনা। তো পুনে থেকে ম্যাম এসছেন, আমরা অত্যন্ত আনন্দিত। সো প্লিজ ম্যাম।
Good afternoon. After the tasty lunch, I'm sure that you might sleep in my talk, but then I hope that you will listen to me with attention, because this is regarding the spread of Buddhism in India as well as in the whole world, and wherein we see that Tamralipti had played a major role since ancient times. So, before going ahead at the outset, I would like to thank the organizers, of course, the 64th descendant, Raja Saab, Dipendra Narayan Roy, and the organizers of the international conference, all the Mahatheras who have been here, but then I'm sure they are here in the campus, and the audience who is here in the hall right now. I'm really thankful to come to the, thankful for inviting me to attend this seminar and then be the chief guest at the conference. Please, I would like to let you know that I have come from the other part of the country, the westernmost part of the country, that is Pune, which is in Maharashtra near Mumbai. And now I have come here with your invitation to the easternmost part of the country, which is Tamluk, and which actually was a very important port in ancient times. When we talk about the history of any country, we generally divide the history artificially on the basis of the availability of the sources to understand a particular period of any country's history. Same is the case with India, where we see that the history of the country has been reconstructed on the basis of the three important types of sources, that is written sources, archaeological or material sources, and oral traditions. And when we say that we have this long history of India, the same applies to the history of Tamralipta also, where we have the written sources in ample number, we have archaeological sources, a lot of archaeological sources because excavations have been carried out over here, and there are many oral traditions in the town itself and about Tamralipta in the region as well. So when we see the references of Tamralipta in the literary sources, we can start with the times of Gautam Buddha actually. Even though we don't have any written material coming from the 6th century BC, that is the contemporary period of Gautam Buddha, but then whatever we find in the Jataka tales and in other Buddhist literature, we do find the reference of Tamralipta. Later on, when we see the Buddhist Pali sources, we know that Samrat Ashok, he had accompanied his daughter and son when they went to Sri Lanka and they carried the branch of the Bodhi tree. So both of them, all of them had come to Tamralipta itself, and the texts tell us that Ashok had accompanied his children and all of them had come here to Tamralipta, and from here those people, both his children went to Sri Lanka. But Sri Lanka is not the only place where we find the spread of Buddhism in the world. All the countries in Southeast Asia, including Myanmar and then Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Indonesia, so everywhere we find that Indian traders and merchants went, those who traveled by sea from Tamralipta and other ports on the eastern coast. Similarly, we find that many people know that even on the western coast of India, we have many important ports from where trade relations of India with the rest of the world were very prosperous, and they were continuously going on right from the times of Gautam Buddha himself. Gautam Buddha had sent one of his missionaries to Maharashtra, to Sopara, Shurparaka. Later on, we also find that Ashoka had sent a monk who was a Yavana, who was a Greek person, who had become a Buddhist monk, and his name was Dharmarakshita. And the Pali texts tell us that Ashoka had sent him to Sopara in the Mumbai region, where he was supposed to spread Buddhism among the local people. This clearly indicates that by the times of Ashoka in the 3rd century BC, many foreigners had started converting themselves to Buddhism. They were, in fact, following Buddhism. They had joined the Sangha probably and taken up the missionary activities. And one of them, who had changed his name because he was a Yavana, and these Yavanas were foreigners who were probably Ionian Greeks. He had changed his name. He called himself as Dharmarakshita, and he was sent to Mumbai, Sopara. Sopara is Nala Sopara in today's Mumbai, where he was supposed to spread the religion among the local people who could have also been foreigners. Because in Western Indian caves, in Western India itself, we find many records, both literary as well as archaeological, which tell us that India had long distance trade relations through the sea to the European countries, especially Greece and Rome, etc. So same is the case with Eastern Indian coast also, where we have right from Tamralipti, then even in the Kalinga region, and then Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, we have the records, both archaeological, literary, and even now at some places we have the oral traditions telling us about those places and their association with the rest of the world, especially through Buddhism. It has been observed that through the caravans of the traders who used to go together to different places in the country and outside the country also, many Buddhist monks, even Jain monks, traveled in those days. And it was through these journeys to different parts of the country, these monks used to tell them about the philosophy of Buddhism, the noble thoughts and noble philosophy, tenets of Buddhism. And in this way, many traders and merchants got converted into Buddhism and, of course, into Jainism also. But then, it has been seen that in Western India at least we have more than 1,000 Buddhist rocket caves, more than 1,000 rocket caves are there in Western India, and out of them, most of them are Buddhist in nature. So this clearly indicates the popularity of Buddhism in Western India. And then the donors, we do have inscriptions. We have inscriptions of these donors who had given money for the creation of these caves, Buddhist caves. And those inscriptions clearly tell us that those people were Yavanas again. They in fact tell us about the place from where they had come and about the object or the part of the cave which they had donated or they had given money for the creation of a pillar or a window or a doorway or something like that. So this clearly shows that in Western India we had many foreigners who were in favor of Buddhism and who had given a lot of patronage to Buddhism. Many foreign writers, travelers had come to India right from the early historic times, that is right from 1st century AD or etc. You might have heard of Pliny, Periplus, and then later on we have these Chinese monks, Fa Hien and then Yuan Sang. All of them had written their travelogues. And in their travelogues, they do mention about the Western Indian ports and Western Indian sites. Similarly, they also mention about Tamralipta and the Eastern Indian ports and the trade centers from where voyages used to take place to different parts of the world. And along with the traders, even the monks used to go. Buddhism was the key factor for this factor which played a major role in the spread of trade network also. Because with these traders to Southeast Asia, many Buddhist monks had gone, and today you see the result in the form of various monuments. You see at Borobudur you have the largest stupa of the world. In Cambodia you have so many temples, Pri Khan and other Tafrom, etc. So they tell us about the connections of Indian religions, not only Buddhism, even Hinduism went along with the traders to the Southeast Asian countries. We do see Angkor Wat is the temple which was dedicated to Vishnu, which is the largest temple and the 8th wonder of the world now. So it was devoted to Vishnu, dedicated to Vishnu, but we have Shaiva temples in Southeast Asia, we have Buddhist temples in Southeast Asia. So in this way we find that these important trade centers played a major role in the spread of the religion, as well as they had given scope to the monks and the patrons to get a lot of merit by giving donations and all. Today also when we find that Raja Sahib himself has become the patron of this conference, and he wants this sincerely to happen, and for which he has got so many honorable theras from so many countries, 9 countries. So he also wants to relive the ancient glory of Tamralipta and bring it back to Tamralipta. I heard that one of the theras is from Japan. Japan also. So there is a temple in Japan called as Horyuji temple. It is one of the oldest temples of Japan, and it also has got, they had recovered a manuscript from Horyuji temple wherein there is a mention of Tamralipta. So that is a very significant fact, where in Japan we have this manuscript mentioning the place Tamralipta itself, coming from the early medieval period. So this shows that the spread of the name of Tamralipta had also reached the outside world in those days. Today Raja Sahib wants this to become a World Heritage Site. That's a very noble thought, and then actually everybody should work for it. The only thing is that to bring this on the world map, you'll have to work very hard, because you will have to the government, not only you, but the government will have to take very important measures like giving facilities. And then what I really think is that we have archaeologists like Dr. Kaushik Gangopadhyay. We should take help of him, because who has known this region very well, who has been working in this region, and there must be some parts of the city, of the town, where you have some empty land which should be excavated. And then when we actually get the archaeological evidence, we can show to the world that, see, these people know that this was an important place, no doubt about it, because we have very convincing literary references. Also we have the archaeological evidences. But when you actually take a dig, because the excavations that were carried out were long back, but now there is a need to again have fresh excavations in a systematic manner, scientific way being carried out, and then when you publish the report and when you convince the world that this is a very important site, people will start coming from the rest of the world. Not only from Eastern India or Eastern world, but also from the Western world. I am telling you the experience or the fact with me and my fellow colleagues in Western India. When we start learning ancient Indian history, culture, and archaeology, we are always told about Tamralipta. But we stay in Maharashtra and Pune, and it's very difficult for us also to go all the way to Tamralipta and see the site. So it has always been our dream to come to this place and see Tamralipta with your own eyes. I was very happy when I got the invitation from Raja Sahib, and then I was very excited also that I would get a chance to come to Tamralipta and see the site with my own eyes. So there are many people in India also who would like to visit this place. So this can become a very important tourism hub. And then you have many things around the place also. So if everything is brought together and if the place is made comfortable for the foreign tourists, as well as more hotels should come up, and then there should be more restaurant, other things which are needed for a tourist site. If you have beautiful beaches, I was told, and the museum also is there. So all these things will definitely bring people to this place. And then when you see the incoming of the tourists, and the burden, I mean, not the burden as such, but the pressure of tourists to make things better at this place, the government will also look into this, because this will generate a lot of revenue for the government itself and even the corporation, local corporation and all. And when you there should be social media publicity also of this place. Actually, I'm not very sure about the social media influencers who talk about Tamralipta, but then you'll have to do that purposefully to tell people about Tamralipta itself and the things that you can see, the importance of the place, and in this way you'll get many, many tourists in the incoming future. And then it won't be difficult for you to make this site as a, though not World Heritage initially important, archaeological tourist place in India and then in the world, and then the governments, the UNESCO also will look into the matter. That's what I feel. So I know that there are many people who are going to speak after me also, but then I'll again thank you for inviting me and for giving us patient listening to my talk, especially after this tasty lunch. There could be some sleepy faces, but then I am not seeing anyone. Everybody is attentive and listening to me. I thank you all. Thank you so much for inviting me once again.
Thank you, Professor Manjuri ma'am, for your kind deliberation regarding this Tamralipta Heritage Palace. So thank you. Now, actually, Kaushik sir is there. Just after Kaushik sir, you can, okay. Yes, please come. Now I would like to request Professor Kaushik Bandopadhyay. He is the HOD Archaeological Department, Kolkata University, West Bengal, India. Please, Professor Kaushik Bandopadhyay from Calcutta University.
Dhanyabad, thank you. First of all, I will pay my respect to the Honorable Theras here, and I know that, and all the guests from our SAARC and Southeast Asian countries. You're welcome to India, and we have our friends from Bangladesh, Nepal, and all over Sri Lanka, Myanmar. And it's a really very rare occasion. I must congratulate Dr. Dipendra Narayan for taking this initiative, because it is very important. Why it is important? Because where we are located, it's a very important juncture in what we now call as Indian Ocean Trade Network. Now, Professor Bhalera was trying to tell you that in India, if you look at the Indian peninsula, on one side we have the Indian Ocean, the Arabian Sea, and then on the eastern side we have Bay of Bengal. Now, the earliest references that we get from Buddhist literature, although I am not a specialist on Buddhist archaeology, Professor Bhalera is a specialist on Buddhist archaeology. She is working on Buddhist archaeology for last 30, 40 years. She knows most of the Buddhist sites and also Buddhist literature. So what I've learned from her, and one reason I requested Dr. Dipendra Narayan to invite her, because I want to show her our museum, and if she can identify some artifacts for me, I will come to the point why it is important. So, as Dr. Bhalera has told us, there are many students. I hope that tomra bujhte parcho. Paschim Bharat, Purva Bharat. Now on the western side, or if you go to North India, you get lot of large stupas. If you go to central India, we have Bharut, Sanchi, and all those large Buddhist monuments. Where Professor Bhalerav is from, and where I studied archaeology, that is Deccan College in Pune, they have these rock-cut caves, the chaitas and viharas, going back to 2nd century BC. মানে দ্বিতীয় খ্রিস্টপূর্ব তৃতীয় শতাব্দীতে চলে যাচ্ছে. If you come to our neighboring state, that is Orissa, we also get so many of these Buddhist viharas and monasteries. In Bangladesh, Bangladesh has recently come up with so many excavations, including Paharpur, and so many important sites are there. Unfortunately, in West Bengal, although we talk about Buddhism, the actual archaeological remains are very few. We have Bharatpur Stup on the Damodar, which is one of the oldest stupas, and the Archaeological Survey of India was excavating. One of our students, Dr. Shubha Mujumdar, uni excavation korchilen from the Archaeological Survey of India, Kolkata Circle. He is our student from our department. He was in charge of Calcutta Circle. Now he has gone to Bombay Circle. So Shubha was excavating Bharatpur Mound. I don't know whether ASI will take it up in future. Hopefully they will. And then the most important discovery, as far as Buddhism is concerned, has been the excavation at a site called Mogolmari, which is about only 4 hours drive from here. It is on the periphery of eastern Midnapur, or in the eastern Midnapur. It's in western Midnapur, not very far from here. Actually, it's very near. And this site of Mogolmari was unknown until some of our colleagues from Calcutta University started excavating. And they found a lot of cells, lot of structures. And initially everybody said, no, these are colonial period buildings and they have nothing to do with Buddhism. But now it has been proved that it was one of the major Buddhist sites in West Bengal. So it helps us to understand, sirs, that Tamralipti, like we were discussing in the morning, this may have been, like Xuanzang says, that there was a capital. It was a capital. It is the translation of Xuanzang is of course, none of us, I do not know Chinese, but there's a very renowned scholar called Dr. Tansen Sen. Now, Dr. Tansen Sen has been in China for a long time. He knows Chinese, and he's been translating the works of these Chinese monks. So if anyone wants to refer to Xuanzang's itineraries or Faxian's itinerary, one can read Dr. Tansen Sen's books on India-China relationship. So whatever translation has been done, it has, when Xuanzang comes here, he says that there's a capital of Tamil. He specifically mentions Tamralipti as a kingdom, so not only as a port, but also as a kingdom. Which means that this area where we are must have been the core of the kingdom of Tamralipti, and there could have been establishments not only here, but also in other parts of where we are right now, in Midnapur district. So Mogolmari is one of those important sites which we excavated from Calcutta University. Right now, the government of West Bengal is in charge of that site. It's a very well-renowned site, but that obviously has a link with this place, that is Tamluk. And then there is a place called Jairampur, also not very far from here. It is on the coast of, actually it's now in the state of Orissa, but again, from Jairampur, there was an inscription which talks about Mahayana Buddhism. And there is an image of Tara, which is still there in that village. And the inscription says, it's a copper plate inscription. It is said that it was a seat of Avalokiteshwar. And why Avalokiteshwar is important, obviously the great scholars are here. I don't want to embarrass myself by talking about it, but to the students, Avalokiteshwar can save you from the Ashta Mahabhaya, the 8 great fears. And when you travel on the sea, as the great Thera was telling us, that the sailors could, ask a monk, if a monk is accompanying the sailors and the merchants, if there is a sea storm, then the monk, the religious preceptor, can save you from one of those fears, that is Ashta Mahabhaya, that is drowning from the sea. সমুদ্রে ডুবে যাওয়ার ভয় থেকে বাঁচাতে পারে। সুতরাং many of the ports along the eastern coast of India and also in Sri Lanka, If you read the work of, there's a great scholar called Professor Osmund Boperacci. He teaches he's basically from France, but he's a Sri Lankan professor. He's a very renowned scholar. He has pointed out that in Sri Lanka, wherever you find the ports, you have Avalokiteshwar installed, because he will protect the merchants and the sailors. Tamane, I want to tell you the students that why there is a link between the Buddhist establishment and sea travel, the merchant and the sailors. Why are they in unison? Because there is a need for people to go on business, but when you are traveling, aaj theke 2000 বছর আগে ছোট ছোট নৌকো, এখন স্টিমের জাহাজ নেই, এরোপ্লেন নেই, and you are traveling to Southeast Asia across the rough Bay of Bengal. You are basically afraid of so many things, particularly sea storms, cyclones. And if the great monk Athera is present there, he can save you. So in this context, now we are getting some evidence from Midnapur, this zone. Of course, Midnapur is a very new, recent political division. So is Odisha and Bengal. 2000 years ago, these were obviously different. There were Sumhas and Tamralitti and all these kingdoms. So we are now getting some hardcore archaeological evidence, because archaeology, we know, it's a scientific discipline. আমরা এটাকে কথায় বিশ্বাস করি না, আমরা আসল জিনিসটা না দেখলে আমরা বিশ্বাস করি না. So now we are getting the evidence that this region was important from Buddhism, and also from South Chabis Pargana, that is in the Sundarban area near Bangladesh. Recently from Calcutta University, we excavated some sites called Konkon Dighi, and from there we have found an image of Jambhal. Jambhal is again a Buddhist deity, right? And a small excavation was taken up. So possibly there is also a Buddhist there was a Buddhist establishment there. So as I began by saying that compared to North India or Western India or even Odisha, because we had less Buddhist monuments, we were on very unsure ground. But right now we are getting more and more information about Buddhism. Now coming back to Tamluk or Tamralitti, what are its references to Buddhism? One, of course, that we see several of these Chinese Buddhist monks, they are coming here. The great monks and pilgrims like Faxian, Xuanzang, Itzing, talking about the Buddhist establishments here. And we have a long inscription from a place called Bago or Pegu in Myanmar. I was in Myanmar, sir, in 2019. I went to Myanmar twice. I visited Myanmar, went to important sites in Myanmar. And that inscription from Pegu talks about how Buddhism was reinstalled in Ramanadesa. Ramanadesa is basically lower Myanmar, what is Dokhin Burma. And it says that there were 4 Theras who were taken to Ramanadesa, that is lower part of Myanmar, from the Bay of Bengal region. One of them was from Tamil Nadu, one of them was from Sri Lanka, and one was from Tamralitti. His name is Shivali Thera. It is an inscription. It's a long inscription from Pegu. Talks about how Buddhism was reinstalled in Pegu. So obviously, and that the inscription itself is very late. It is 15th century, but it says that it happened in 563 CE. So it is referring to an earlier event. What we can see is this, that during the early medieval phase, or what we call the Gupta period in India, Tamralitti was already a very well-renowned Buddhist center. But what about the archaeological evidence? Do we get archaeological evidence? Unfortunately, there are very few. Now, that is the problem we have to solve now. And that is why Dr. Bhalerao is here. We are sure that there are artifacts which can be identified as Buddhist artifacts. For example, if we get ceilings in Myanmar, if you go to Myanmar, you will find terracotta ceiling with Avalokiteshwar and other bodhisattvas surrounded by stupas. Those were stamped ceilings. Same ceilings you get in Nalanda. Paharpur also, yes. In this museum, Mayanamati, but in this museum I think there is one. In this museum there is one ceiling, which Professor Bhalera was telling me that it means that there was an education institution here. So that is a archaeological evidence. So we need to highlight, we need to tell the story of those artifacts. Because unless you are a Buddhist scholar or a Buddhist archaeologist dealing with Buddhism, nobody will identify those artifacts. It is difficult. You need to have the knowledge. And then in Ashutosh Museum in Calcutta, there's a small toran. It is made of stone. It's a small toran, like Sanchi. Sanchi toran je ache, orthat there's a stupa, if you know about Buddhist architecture, the stupa is there, and there are gateways, and on each side, uttor, dokkhin, puro, poschim, toran ba gateways thake. From Tamluk, there's a small toran was found made of stone. And it is now in Ashutosh Museum of Calcutta University. Anybody can go there and you can see that piece is preserved there. It is public display. And Professor Bhalera was telling me that it means that there were votive stupas or personal stupa. It could be worshipped by, it could be a small stupa. So we can use these artifacts to talk about the early, and these are all earlier than 4th century AD. And finally, we come to some of the terracotta objects that you find in your museum in Tamluk, which shows the tales of from Jatakas and life of Buddha. For example, there is one piece that possibly depicts the story of Jetavan. You can see the wheel and the coins. But again, one needs to understand Buddhism and Buddhist literature to identify the artifacts. অর্থাৎ এই যে প্রত্নবস্তুগুলো আছে বাংলায় বলতে গেলে সেগুলোকে বোঝার জন্যে বৌদ্ধ যে বলতে পারেন লিটারেচার আছে সেটাকে না বুঝলে এই আর্টিফ্যাক্টসগুলো কেউ দেখে বুঝতে পারবে না। Then there are symbols like Triratna. So you have some terracotta images in this museum where you see a person wearing Triratna. Now, one who doesn't know about Buddhism will not understand the significance of that particular piece. So we do have these archaeological evidences from Tamluk, which shows that at least by the first millennium CE, that is, you can say during the birth of Jesus Christ, আগে বলা হতো কমন ক্রিশ্চিয়ান AD, Anno Domini, এখন আমরা Anno Domini বলি না, আমরা এখন বলি কমন এরা, রাইট? অ্যান্ড BC বলা হতো, দ্যাট ইজ বিফোর ক্রাইস্ট, এখন হয়ে গেছে বিফোর কমন এরা, BCE. আমরা এখন Anno Domini and before Christ বলি না, we say common era and before common era, right? Because it is more secular in that way. So we can say that at least 2,000 years ago, these artifacts, they are to be studied. And the excavations which was conducted in Tamluk, I have seen the pottery, because I specialize in trade pottery. And I can tell the scholars from Myanmar that there are many pottery that we find in Tamluk, and also at a site called Bahiri, which is not very far from here. I have been excavating that site, and I'm finding a typical pot with a knob in the center. Now, we find the same type of knob in Bangladesh, Paharpur, as well as in your that site called Wadi Boteshwar. Yes. So this kind of knobbed vessel, we don't know, it's a thalar moto bati, majkhane knob ekta. Now, some scholars have suggested that was used in some ritual in Buddhism, possibly Mount Meru, symbolizing some of Buddhist ideology. So these artifacts are there. We need to identify them. We need to understand them. We need to, যেটাকে বাংলায় বলা হয়, contextualize them. তার একটা প্রেক্ষিত দরকার. Then we can reconstruct how and in what manner Buddhism was established here, how it performed, who were the monks, who were the laity, what was the connection. And then in future, if we can, there are two things we should do. One, re-study the artifacts which are in New Delhi. Now the excavated materials by Archaeological Survey of India, some of it is in Kolkata, but the important artifacts is in Delhi, so I plan to go and study them. And third, and maybe in future, we should have like Professor Bhalerao said, re-excavate a small area. Now, Tamluk is not an area where you can excavate on a large scale because there are modern buildings, but still there are some areas where you can take, যেটাকে আমরা বলি khad, but trench, collect new artifacts and get them studied by scholars of Buddhism. Only then we will be able to actually establish the relationship of Tamluk with Buddhism, and whatever literature has been talking about Buddhism and Tamluk will be validated. অর্থাৎ ভ্যালিডেশন হয়ে যাবে। And finally, World Heritage Site করতে গেলে we need to do all these things because people will have to come and have a look at them. Otherwise, তারা কি দেখবেন? And secondly, tourism. Yes, Purbo Mednipur district has a great potential for tourism. Already it's a tourist district. We have several beautiful beaches, and all the archaeological sites are along the tourist route. So the tourists can actually, go and take a card and visit this site, so they need to be publicized. So I have been telling the district administration also that we should promote Buddhism and tourism, more and more in this district. Hopefully with Dipendra here at the helm, somebody from the district must take the lead. He has taken the lead. And I'm sure that students, some of our students are from this district. Maybe some of you will go to Calcutta University to study archaeology, okay? Get the training, come here and study the artifacts. Artifacts গুলো তো পাওয়া যায়. Professor Acharya was telling me that ওনার বাড়ির তলা থেকে খুঁড়ে বার করে যেখানেই খুঁড়বে, you will find artifacts. But you need to have a training to study those artifacts. এই কথা বলে আমি শেষ করব. I will end my lecture with this. Yes. Oh, votive clay tablets. These are actually, these were earlier called votive tablets. Now they are called clay tablets by a great scholar of Buddhism. I think our scholar from Thailand will know him, Peter Skilling. He has published a lot. He's a great scholar on Buddhist artifacts. এগুলো হচ্ছে ছোট ছোট সিলিং মানে হচ্ছে যার উপরে আমি সিল মোহর দিয়ে একটা ছাঁচ করলাম, এবং these are of these sizes, right? এগুলোকে বলা হচ্ছে clay tablets. Now there are the reasons for them, তার মধ্যে হচ্ছে বোধিসত্ত্ব and flanked by stupas or two attendants. These are small ones. And in Myanmar, you find them in thousands. I have visited many sites in Myanmar, Baekthano, Sri Kshetra, and they are in thousands. In Nalanda, there are several of them. Some of them very beautiful. From Mogolmari, they have found these ceilings. Yes. And my colleague Rajat Sannal, who could not come, he has published article on those ceilings. So those ceilings, they could be made for... Yes, in Bangladesh also they are there. Yes. Yes. So they were possibly used for merits, or for, as Professor Bhalera was telling, as identity card for the students or the monks traveling, Yes, some of them are temple, yes. Yes. Yes, scriptures are also there. So these ceilings indicate link between Nalanda, Myanmar, Mogolmari, and Rajat Sannal has an article on this. So in Tamluk also there is one. I will go and tell, maybe tomorrow morning I'll take Professor Bhalera and show that particular artifact. ASI-তে আছে, ASI-তে একটা আছে। Yes, it is like শ্রদ্ধা নিবেদনের জন্য votive, ওই জন্য votive বলা হচ্ছে। And আপনি ধরুন, আপনি 1000টা করলেন, you have merit. If you make those clay, even in Myanmar today, if you go to Myanmar, you will see even today people are making those for getting merit. Now, to know all this, you need to study Buddhist and Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist dharma. Professor Bhalerao here, she's a specialist on that. In Western India, they are doing a lot of work on this. But first you have to understand Buddhist philosophy to understand these artifacts. Otherwise, বোঝা যাবে না. One who doesn't know the philosophy of Buddhism, they will not understand, because like the great Thera told us, there are Mahayanas and Theravada and Vajrayana. So you have to understand the philosophy to understand the artifacts and icons. So it's a very highly specialized area of research. এবং যারা ছাত্রছাত্রী আছো, তাদের মধ্যে হয়তো ভবিষ্যতে কেউ আর্কিওলজি পড়বে, প্রাচীন ইতিহাস পড়বে, ইউ ক্যান টেক আপ বুদ্ধিজম as one of areas of research. It is one of the major area of archaeological and historical research in all Indian universities. Yes. Yes. Please, yes. So I will end my topic. If somebody is, there's a, no, please have a comment. Yes. Yes. Yes, Borgo Bhima temple, which stands on a mound, because local people say there was a stupa or something like that, but we don't know unless we excavate,
But there are small roads, which proves that there was a Buddhist temple
once, maybe.
2,500
years ago, yes. So these evidences are there, and so we need to find more. And like I said, Dokhin Chobish Pargona, Konkon Dighi, there's an image of Jambhal we found. It's in our museum in Calcutta University. And we found cells, okay? And in Jogjibanpur in Malda and Mogolmari. And there are many mounds around this town. There is a place called Raghunath Bari. That could be also investigated in future, because Tamluk or Tamilip is not just this town. It is, entire almost Midnapur district. And there are many mounds which we need to excavate. Bikrampur and Dhaka, Bikrampur area. Yes, absolutely. And the site I'm excavating, Bahiri, the name is very interesting. So people say it comes from Bihar. From Bihar it's Bahiri. So there could be some Bihar there. And we, like I said, we found a lot of these artifacts with knobs. but we have to excavate more. Now, excavation actually onek shomoy lage. It's a very long process, ebong it has to be scientifically dated. So once we come up with more data and with more specialists, I think maybe next 5-10 years we will know more about our Buddhism in Bengal than what we know today. And যেরকম উড়িষ্যাতে হয়েছে, বিহারে হয়েছে, বেঙ্গলেও কিন্তু we have to catch up. আমরা একটু পিছিয়ে আছি. With these words, I thank once again for inviting me, and hopefully I'll be coming. Tomluke ashi regular, so we will keep in touch, and this work will continue. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Professor Kaushik Bandyopadhyay from Kolkata University. Thank you, sir, for your kind deliberation. Thank you. I would like to request, actually we are in late, one outside, I mean, he's from USA, he's waiting for us also. Okay. So, Sri Lanka, I think just 10 minutes, is it possible, sir? Actually, we are having permission to. Yes, actually one from USA, he's waiting. Okay, also sir is waiting, Rajashri sir is waiting, also our Dr. Manos sir is also waiting. I think sir, just 10 minutes, then I think we can continue for just 10 minutes to that Chicago University one boy. He is very Bishoy Balok, we may call, because he is living in Chicago, but within short period, he is now 50 years old, 15. I mean, 15 years old. He just recites some one repeat. Just a minute. You connect it? Just a minute. Okay, Aritro. Hello, Aritro. We are here from Tamil Royal Palace. Yes, Aritro. Are you hearing? Your sound is mute. Unmute your sound. Aritro, you please unmute your sound. Aritro, he is from Chicago University. He is staying at Chicago, that is in USA. Aritro, you are, I think you are unmute. Hello, hello. Now it's okay.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello?
Hello, please on your video. Please on your video. Aritro Malavendra sir, he is from Chicago. Yes, Aritro.
Thank you all for inviting me.
Yes.
Today, I'll be making a speech, Buddhism in the Modern World. What is Buddhism? Buddhism is the practice of achieving enlightenment, a process that requires one to follow the middle path. What is enlightenment? Enlightenment is what one will find when they search deep enough. Enlightenment is what one will find when they look into themselves and realize that there is no self. What is the middle path? It is one that Buddha taught. Neither seeks to have everything and neither seeks to have nothing. Only when you look beyond the concepts of everything and nothing will you find enlightenment. Born in Lumbini, he was trapped within the society of the court, where his father would not let him see suffering. One day, he had stepped outside and he had found the destitute, the aged, and the sick. Eventually, he had come to a retreat, adopting the practice of Jainism. During this time, he had continuously fasted and he had all shriveled up. Now, too weak to walk, he sat below the tree, and that was the light that had come from him. Yes, he is the Buddha. Buddha taught of the three jewels. Buddha did not leave us with any direct texts. He left us with his disciples, upon which his Sangha would be built. The three jewels that he had left us with are the Buddha, the Sangha, and the Dharma. In other words, he, his community, that will carry on his legacy and his faith. He left us with those three pillars. His community had continued to develop during this time. Fast forward, when his disciples started to rapidly spread the Dharma to the four corners of the world. Some from the land of the Han had heard of his message. One devotee of the Buddha seeking to translate the canons of the Buddha from Pali and Sanskrit into classical Han was Faizan. He had come to collect much of these texts that were used throughout India and had come to translate them into Chinese. Was he successful? Yes, he was. He had collected texts of the 18 schools, which had consolidated into two vehicles, the Mahajan vehicle and the Way of the Elders. In the process, he had come into much contact with Tamluk. Buddhism recognizes many practices, yet focuses only on one dharma. One can be tantric or as orthodox as possible. Yet, they will all come to realize that there is only one dharma. Amongst the Theravadin of Champa, Khmer, Siam, and Ceylon, there is a practice called Tantra. Yet, even amongst Tibetans and Mongolians, there too is the practice of Tantra. My dear brothers and sisters, it is not practice that defines what they believe. Practice is only the outer layer. You can be part of Pure Land and still believe in Tantra. You can be part of the Theravadin and still believe in Tantra. Rather, orthopraxy comes from orthodoxy. The Theravadin and Mahayana are not distinct in practice. Vajrayana is nothing but Mahajan into the practice of Tantra. Theravadin are not or defined by their orthodoxy, but are in fact defined by how well that they apply their doctrines into the modern world. It does not matter how one practices their dharma, but what matters is what their dharma is. There is only one dharma. Then why is there more than one sangha? Unfortunately, during the course of events, there have been splits amongst the sangha. Yet, if they all profess the one and same dharma, then they are as one. It does not matter as to how one practices. If a Parsi and Champa share the same dharma, but they have different practices, then they are one. As we recall from Paramatra and Xuanzang, the first Buddhist council had preserved the teachings of the Buddha through the sutras and had preserved the monastic rules, which are the Vinaya. The Buddha had left a command saying to the Sangha that the minor rules for the Buddhist canon could be adjusted, if necessary. But the Sangha had remained fully faithful, leaving every single rule intact. The disciples of the Buddha had preserved the full canon. Buddha, most importantly, left us with the Sangha above all. During the second council, a rift had started to form. The Vaisali monks had broken 10 rules from the canon. The Orthodox monks were fully against this. Another rift that had started was between the Mahasamga and the Staviras. Yet, there was no schism yet. They all lived side by side, even if they had come from the 18 schools. This would be evidenced by the Third Council and Ashoka, the great emperor of the Maurya, who had acquired the Dharma. He renounced all offensive wars and sought to live a life of piousness and tranquility. Missions were sent from the Ionian Bactria to Dainam. This was in effect the greatest ecumenical council, spanning from one land to another, and whose missionaries would spread the Dharma across the world. Today, the Fourth Buddhist Council splits the Sangha in half. Those who believe in the Theravadian method of believing that enlightenment is the only goal in life held the Council of the Sinalis. On the other hand, the Kushan Council of the Parsi and Sojians was held to propagate Buddhism throughout the lands of the Han and to the Persian desert. In all this time, Buddhism has remained a dharma that has never sought physical confrontation. Physical confrontation is not what defines Buddhism, nor did it ever. Yet, there are those who would not surrender a defensive fight. Instead, Buddhism tells you that you should respect those who seek to harm you and to realize that there is no other way but the enlightenment. One communicates this great form of love by showing others the ways of the Buddha. How can one apply Buddhism into the modern day? Buddhism needs no changes. It is an eternal dharma, from not the time of the Buddha, but from the universe's existence. It is eternally begotten, not created. Buddhism in itself is beyond time. Dharma is the order of the universe, and there is no other order. Buddhism realizes that there is matter that is created, and that the Dharma is eternally begotten. At the core of all matter ceases to be matter. At the core, there is only the Dharma. That too is from which peace will one day be achieved. Peace is only achieved when both sides agree to follow the Dharma. The Buddha does not demand of us to follow every single rule to be laid out. Instead, he demands us to believe in Dharma and to execute what we can to the best of our ability. Buddhism is pastoral. All commands are done to the best of our ability. Buddhism follows the natural order and the natural law. When Buddhism will prevail, there will be peace. Spread the Dharma to all those you know. There is only one Dharma, the Orthodox Dharma. Spread the Dharma far and wide, for that is what the Buddha taught. Spread the Dharma until you have no more. You will find that beyond nirvana, there is something even greater. It is moksha. We do not believe that we are created, not eternally begotten. Yet, when we go on to adopt the eternally begotten, the Dharma, then we start to undergo the process of the moksha. We start to undergo the understanding that there's something beyond. And that those attributes that we will find, we will come to adopt. We do not seek a difference between the essence of the Dharma and the energy of the Dharma. We are not the Dharma, yet we can adopt the Dharma. The closer we get into Dharma, the closer we come to realize, the more in fact it penetrates our lives. The reason why the Dharma brings peace is because the Dharma is peace. The closer we get towards the Dharma, the more that peace will start to appear in our lives. There is one Dharma, but there are multiple paths. When we do the ritual of Tantra, we will then make the same sacrifice that was commanded to us before. We do not make a little sacrifice, but will come to do a sacrifice that will have been made of a substitute. The Dharma never asks us to injure anything. Instead, with our sacrifice, we make the substitute for what we can. There is no such thing as Vamachara in practice. Instead, everything is substituted. And there is only one thing that is perpetual in union. That offering is your love for the Dharma and is what you will provide, whether it is a fruit or vegetable. That sacrifice is from which we will every day will come to find the offering. That sacrifice is given as the union of what there is. That sacrifice is then the offering of what will come to consume after transformation. There too is no such thing as Dakshinachara. Yet what we come to sacrifice becomes the offering. There is no sacred mystery that is separate from the offering. And that sacred mystery that is in the offering is being given. That sacred mystery turns the offering into something that brings us closer to Dharma. Buddhism is not a scientific religion. Buddhism is neither a religion. It is not made by men, but is made by God and God alone. Buddhism is the truth. The truth that is conveyed both through our understanding of the natural world and through the sacred mysteries that Buddhism brings along with it. In the end, no goal comes to change. What was will always be. Buddhism neither seeks to prove its existence through a sword. Yet, the Dharma does give us a sword. The sword is what separates those who believe from those who do not. Buddhism seeks no fighting of the sword, but seeks the fighting of the word. The Dharma itself is eternal. The expression of the Dharma may be vast and wide, yet there are always certain elements, including the sacrifice that is made. That sacrifice is then fed to all, so the sacrifice will bring all of them to the Dharma. What then is the Buddhist canon of text? The canon is the standard upon which we measure the orthodoxy of a text. As long as all those who are within the Sangha have the same canon, no matter what text may be present, so that all texts are orthodox, then the canon is one. The number of texts is not closed, for what was always meant to be, what was to be decided by the Sangha, which is rightfully guided by the Dharma. The Dharma is what is one that's above all. The Dharma does not refer to text, but refers to itself. The word, which is the Dharma, is one with the essence that created all. The Dharma, in the form of the Spirit, too, is the one with the essence that created all. The Dharma itself is the Dharma, and there is no other. Buddha proved to us that peace is possible when we accept the Dharma. The Buddha is the word of the Dharma, and the news that is carried on is through the teachings. If you want to carry on the Dharma, then carry with you the many powers of the Pantheon. The Pantheon is not a pantheon of gods, but it's a pantheon of powers. Those powers who are delegated to by the one God are those that are reflected throughout the Pantheon. Keep with you the images, for God himself has ordained those images. Images that are not idolatry, but are in fact coming from the one God himself. That one God is the Dharma. You seek in your life to become one with the Dharma. Where does this Pantheon come from? It comes from the one place where the Buddha was born. It comes from the land of the wise. It is not the Pantheon that will ever be of distinct people, but will always be of the Pantheon of distinct powers. Those powers that come into existence through being eternally begotten by God are those that will always remain as such. Let us invoke the power that is Lokshashvara as we pray for peace throughout the world. Let us pray that there will one day be a deliverance of all peoples to the Dharma. Let us pray to the Buddha that he may indeed make us come to true, that his own word will come to spread throughout the world. Now it is up to us, brothers and sisters, to spread the word. When they come to be part of the Sangha, then it is upon the mountain that they'll find the fountain of life. It is upon them that they'll find eternal life. There neither is Tantra, nor is there any orthopraxy. Rather, there is a specific rubric that his disciples have left us with, in accordance with the ancient puja. That specific rubric will always remain. When one undergoes the practice of puja, they will come to realize that there is only one sacrifice, and the sacrifice is both orthodox and is of great value. The temple upon which the Buddha is found, and upon which the Dharma is found, is the only way. It is the only way to peace and happiness. Now, I ask you, brothers and sisters, to affirm that you believe in the Buddha, the Sangha, and the Dharma. I ask you to never alter what is taught and to always hold to what the Buddha has taught. I ask you to always come to realize that there is only one Dharma. The Dharma is one that will bring peace in the world. How does one find the right Sangha? The right Sangha teaches the right Dharma and comes from the Buddha himself. The Buddha taught his disciples the Sangha. And then he had given them the Sangha. The Sangha teaches the orthodox Dharma and will always remain in the hands of the Buddha. Let us now take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dharmam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Buddham saranam gacchami, Dharmam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Buddham saranam gacchami, Dharmam saranam gacchami, Sangam saranam gacchami. Swaha, swaha, swaha.
Thank you, Aritra. Thank you for your kind presentation. Thank you. Actually, Aritra, he is very junior. He is now 15 years old. He is living in Chicago. That is very close to, Chicago, where our Honorable, Swamiji gave that specific presentation. Also standing there that his father, he is also professor of Ras Medical University. He is a neuroscientist. So thank you, Aritra. Now, already we are in late. Sir, please. So actually, Rajesh sir, he is waiting since. Please come here, please. Now I would like to request Professor Rajesh sir, please come on dais, please. Already we are in late. Please. So thank you, Aritra. Tomorrow actually we are having another program, even day after tomorrow. So if possible, tomorrow we will again connect to you, because now here, although in your USA now just morning, but here we are in evening. We are having another program to inaugurate one statue. So please, Aritra, tomorrow we will have another session with you. Also your beloved scientist father. Maravindu sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Tomorrow and day after tomorrow we'll have another session. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, no
yes.
problem.
So thank you to you and your lovely son, genius of the geniuses, Aritra. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now I would like to request Professor Rajesh sir, please. এরপরে আমরা now after the deliberation, yes sir, আমাদের মধ্যে শ্রদ্ধেয় মহারাজ রামকৃষ্ণ মিশন উনি এসে উপস্থিত। তো প্রণম্য স্যারকে, মহারাজকে আমার প্রণাম এবং শ্রদ্ধা জানাই। আমাদের এই স্বামী একুরূপানন্দ মহারাজ, রামকৃষ্ণ মিশন তমলুক। তো ওনাকে আমরা পেয়ে সত্যি গর্বিত আজকের এই মহতী সভায় ওনার আগমনের জন্য। তো ওনাকে আমরা বরণ করে নিচ্ছেন। হ্যাঁ, একটু সংক্ষিপ্ত করতে হবে স্যার, ম্যাক্সিমাম 5-7 মিনিট, কারণ এরপর আমরা স্যার ওখানে যেতে হবে। এরপর আমাদের মূর্তি উন্মোচন হবে। ডক্টর থেরো স্যার এবং আমরা কয়েকজন একটু দূরে যেতে হবে, সবাই হয়তো বুদ্ধ পার্কে যেতে হবে, ওখানে মূর্তি উন্মোচনের জন্য ডক্টর থেরো স্যার অবশ্যই যাবেন। আর সবাই যদি না হলেও অন্তত 2-4 জন আমরা যেতে ইচ্ছুক আছি। রাজা স্যার যাবেন, তো এটা গাড়িতে করে যাওয়া হবে। আপাতত শ্রদ্ধেয় স্যার প্রফেসর রাজশ্রী স্যার ভাষণ দেবেন। হ্যাঁ,
শ্রদ্ধেয় এখানে সমস্ত আমাদের বাইরের দেশের যে সমস্ত বৌদ্ধ সন্ন্যাসীরা এসছেন তাদেরকে প্রণাম জানাই আমি। আমার এসছেন বিভিন্ন অধ্যাপকরা বিভিন্ন কলেজ থেকে। আমার পাশে যিনি আজকে পরিচালনা করছেন তিনি একজন বিজ্ঞানী, তিনি দিল্লিতে রয়েছেন, তাকেও আমার নমস্কার জানাই। আমার বন্ধু ডক্টর দীপেন্দ্রনাথ রায় এই রাজবাড়ির সুসন্তান, তিনি আজ 5 বছর ধরে এখানে এই আন্তর্জাতিক সেমিনারের আয়োজন করছে এবং এবারেও সেই সেমিনারের আয়োজন করেছেন। এবারের বিষয়টা বৌদ্ধ ধর্মের ওপরে তাম্রলিপ্তে তার কী প্রভাব ছিল সেই নিয়েই আজকে আলোচনা চক্র। এর আগে বিভিন্ন বিষয় নিয়ে আমাদের মংসরা, ডক্টর থেরো, প্রফেসর ভালেরামা, প্রফেসর কৌশিক গঙ্গোপাধ্যায় এনারা বলে গেছেন, এবং এদের কাছ থেকে আমরা অনেক সমৃদ্ধ হয়েছি, অনেক কিছু আমরা জেনেছি। যদিও ইতিপূর্বে আর্কিওলজিক্যাল সার্ভে অফ ইন্ডিয়া এখন অধিগ্রহণ করেছেন, আমাদের মিউজিয়াম রিসার্চ সেন্টার যেটা তমলুকে ছিল, সেখানে আমাদের অনেক বড় বড় অধ্যাপকরা কলকাতা বিশ্ববিদ্যালয় থেকে ডক্টর ব্রতীন্দ্রনাথ মুখোপাধ্যায়, অমিতাভ মুখোপাধ্যায়ের মতো লোকেরা এসে, নরেনবাবু এসেন, তারা এখানে এই তাম্রলিপ্ত বন্দর নগর প্রত্নতত্ত্ব নিয়ে বিশেষভাবে আলোচনা করেছেন, এবং তখনও আমরা এটা সমৃদ্ধ হয়েছি। তারপরে আমরা বিভিন্নভাবে বিভিন্ন বইপত্র প্রকাশিত হয়েছে, তা থেকেও আমরা জানতে পেরেছি। আমি প্রথমেই আমার বন্ধুকে আমি ধন্যবাদ জানাই যে এই ধরনের আন্তর্জাতিক সেমিনারের আয়োজন করে আমাদের তাম্রলিপ্তকে শুধু আমাদের পশ্চিম বাংলাতে নয়, আন্তর্জাতিক স্তরে পৌঁছে দেওয়ার জন্য। আমি যে বিষয়টা নিয়ে আলোচনা করতে যাচ্ছি সেটা হচ্ছে বৌদ্ধ শিক্ষার কেন্দ্র হিসেবে তাম্রলিপ্ত। আপনারা জানেন যে এখানে বিশেষ করে চাইনিজ ট্রাভেলাররা, বিশেষ করে চৈনিক পরিব্রাজক যারা, তারা বিভিন্নভাবে বিভিন্ন সময়ে এখানে এসেছেন, এবং সেই চৈনিক পরিব্রাজকদের মধ্যে এখানে উপস্থিত হয়েছেন ইত সিং, যিনি বৌদ্ধ শিক্ষা কেন্দ্র হিসেবে তাম্রলিপ্তে প্রায় ইত সিংয়ের কার্যকাল অনেক দিন পর্যন্ত এখানে তিনি ছিলেন। চৈনিক পরিব্রাজক ইত সিং বরাহ বিহারে কিছুকাল থেকে তিনি সংস্কৃত এবং শব্দবিদ্যাকে অধ্যয়ন করেছিলেন, এবং নাগার্জুন বোধিসত্ত্ব শ্রুইলেখ্য নামে অন্তত একটি সংস্কৃত পুস্তক চৈনিক ভাষায় তিনি অনুবাদও করেছিলেন। তাং চেং টেং ছিলেন হিউয়েনসাংয়ের একজন শিষ্য, হিউয়েনসাংও আমাদের এখানে এসেছিলেন। যাই হোক, তাং টেং সেং তিনি শ্যামদেশ সিংহল দক্ষিণ ভারত পরিভ্রমণ শেষ করে তাম্রলিপ্তে এসে তিনি বৌদ্ধ ধর্ম সম্বন্ধে পড়াশুনোর জন্য দীর্ঘ 12 বছর কাটান, এবং এই বৌদ্ধচার্যের সংস্কৃত ভাষায় বিশেষ ব্যুৎপত্তিও ছিল। তাওলিন ছিলেন একজন বৌদ্ধ পুরোহিত। তিনি চীন থেকে সিংহল এবং সেখান থেকে উড়িষ্যার উপকূল ধরে তিনি তাম্রলিপ্তে আসেন, এবং এখানে কোনো এক বৌদ্ধ বিহারে অবস্থান করে সংস্কৃত ভাষাও তিনি শিখেছিলেন। আবার হুইতা ছিলেন চীনা পুরোহিত। তাম্রলিপ্তে তাং চেং টেংয়ের সঙ্গে তাঁর দেখাও হয়েছিল। তাঁরই সঙ্গে 1 বছর থেকে তিনি সংস্কৃত ভাষায় শব্দশাস্ত্র জ্ঞানার্জন করেন, এবং এরপর তিনি নালন্দায় গিয়ে প্রায় 10 বছর পড়াশুনো করে পরে তিনি তাম্রলিপ্তে ফিরে আসেন, এবং এখান থেকে বহু পুঁথি সহ শ্রী ভোজ দেশের উদ্দেশ্যে তিনি যাত্রা করেন। সম্ভবত তাম্রলিপ্তে থাকাকালীন তিনি কিছু শ্লোককে অনুবাদ করেছিলেন। হুইলুন ছিলেন একজন কোরীয় বৌদ্ধ পণ্ডিত। ইনি তাম্রলিপ্তে এসেছিলেন, এবং এর আসার সঠিক কারণ কিন্তু জানা যায় না। ফাইয়েন এসেছিলেন শিক্ষালাভের উদ্দেশ্যে। সুতরাং প্রাচীনকালে বৌদ্ধ শিক্ষার কেন্দ্র হিসেবে আমাদের তাম্রলিপ্তের খ্যাতি ছিল। আর একটা কথা আমার যেটা বলতে চাই, যে তাম্রলিপ্তের শুধুমাত্র অজস্র গরবিনী রূপ আজও লুকিয়ে আছে তার রূপনারায়ণের পলিমাঠির মধ্যে। বণিক সভ্যতার সমৃদ্ধির সময় পঞ্চচূড় শিরভূষণ পরে নাগরিকাদের দল প্রিয়জনের মনোরঞ্জন করত। অমিতাভ বুদ্ধের বাণী ও জ্ঞান সম্পদ বিতরণ করতেন বৌদ্ধ তপস্বীগণ। সুতরাং শুধু নৃতাত্ত্বিক বা প্রত্নতাত্ত্বিক নয়, এর আরও আর্থ সামাজিক রাজনৈতিক এবং অন্যান্য আরও অনেক জিনিস এখানে লুকিয়ে আছে, যেগুলোকে নিয়ে আমরা আলোচনা করতে পারি। কিন্তু আমাদের শেষের পথে আমাদের আরও একজন রয়েছে এখানে আলোচনা করবেন, তারপর আমরা বুদ্ধ পার্কে যাব। সুতরাং আজকে আমি এইটুকু বলে সংক্ষিপ্তসার বলে আমার বক্তব্য শেষ করলাম। নমস্কার।
Thank you, Professor Rajarsi sir. Thank you, sir. Is it possible to, may I request our Sri Lankan monk, Bedaren Mathuala Vijayasiri, is it? Acha. So I think I would like to request tomorrow. Now, sir is waiting, sir may tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow and day after tomorrow, we are having scope to enough discussion. But before today, before inauguration of a specific statue in Buddha Park, I think another 10-15 minutes, if you allow, at least 15-20 minutes we can discuss on, Sri Lanka. Please come, sir. Please. So I would like to request Venerable Mathuala Vijayasri from Sri Lanka. It's our immense pleasure to welcome you here on this Tamil Royal Heritage Place. Please. He's from Sri Lanka.
शुभ संध्यामस्तु प्रथमतया अहं बुद्धवन्दनं करोमि सम्बुद्धं पुण्डरीकाक्षं सर्वज्ञं करुणास्पदं समन्तभद्रं शास्तारं शाक्यसिंहं नमाम्यहम् पुनरेकवारं मम हार्दिकधन्यवादम् अस्माकं संविधान मंडलविषये दत्तुमिच्छामि अत्र सभायां उपस्थिताः अतिगौरवार्ह महाभिक्षुवराश्च अस्माकं सर्वे अतिथयः च कस्मिंश्चित् संस्कृतभाषया प्रथमतया वक्तुम् अवसरं प्रार्थयामि अहं श्रीलङ्कातः मार्तुलविजितश्री नाम भिक्षु कल्याणी विश्वविद्यालये संस्कृत विभागे प्राध्यापकः अस्मि या लोके विशिष्टा श्रेष्ठतमा गरिष्ठा सुन्दरतमा भाषा वर्तते सा नाम संस्कृत भाषा अहम् अतीव सन्तुष्टिन् अद्य मम श्रीलङ्का देशतः अत्र आगत्य ताम्रलिप्त राष्ट्रविषये च श्रीलङ्का द्वीपस्य सम्बन्धं किञ्चित् वक्तुं मम देशनां प्रथमतया आङ्ग्लभाषया वक्तुम् इच्छामि अतः परं मम actually I would like to thanks for organizing this ceremony and for inviting us to join us. For the limitation of time, I would like to start my topic, actually the relationship between Sri Lanka and Tamralipta. I will pay attention few incidents for the point of view and the history. The unbroken relationship between Sri Lanka and India goes back to thousands of years in many spiritual, economics, political and cultural fields. Sri Lanka and India have connected via many ports such as Visakhapatnam, etc. Among them, the Tamralipta port was one of the main ports. It was already discussed here. According to the P.C. Gupta, the former director of archaeology, the government of West Bengal, the port and city emerged in the second millennium before Christ or even in the earlier times and became the center of maritime activities. Many scholars suggest that the people from Gomukha near Tamralipta colonized Sri Lanka, Gokanna near the Trincomalee. This is the ancient thing they have found in Sri Lanka, Trincomalee, and they found Sri Lanka was colonized and started our people from this area. Strong literature and archaeological evidences prove that connection between Sri Lanka and Tamralipta. Pali commentaries, chronicles like Mahavansa, Chulavansa, Datavansa, Rajavali could be indicated as the primary source of literature. Our written history starts with the arrival of Vijaya. The people believe Sri Lanka was originally civilized after the arrival of Prince Vijaya, we call Vijayagamana. It connected with the Buddha and it's mentioned in the Mahavansa. According to the Mahavansa and Rajavali, the Prince Vijaya and his 500 followers came to Sri Lanka in 500 BC on the same day of the pass away of the Buddha. The text record that they came from Tamralipti, the ancient port of India. They spent 7 days to reach Sri Lanka. It is an interesting fact that they have named Sri Lanka as Tamraparni. This is very close. Even they are the first gave name Sri Lanka as Tambapanni as like, or Tambapanni Deepa. It is a close connection with Tamralipti. The Hatavansa described that many ships sailed from Bengal to Ceylon, and there was a regular traffic between Tamralipti and Ceylon. The city and port of Tamralipta were very famous during the Mauryan dynasty. At the time, the central town was Tamralipti in Vanga, a part of the Mauryan kingdom. Tamralipta was a crucial place for international trading as well as one of the main entrants in the country. It is explained that Professor El Basham, in his remarkable book called The Wonder That Was India, as follows. The Mauryan time, with the eastward expansion of Mauryan culture, Tamralipti became the main seaport of the Ganges basin, and Champa lost its importance. From Tamralipti, ship not only sailed to Ceylon, but before the beginning of Christian era to Southeast Asian in Indonesia. Connecting to the Sri Lanka, the next important point in the history of Sri Lanka is arrival of Buddhism. It is mentioned in Mahavansa that before the arrival of Mahinda, diplomatic mission occurred between King Dharmasoka and Devanampiyatissa. Tissa. The diplomatic came to Mauryan kingdom via the port of Tamralipti. The great history in Mahavansa mentioned as follows. It's have many slokas. I will only mention one gatha from the Mahavansa. It goes like this. Tamalipti Maharuya Navam Te Jambu Kolake Oruya Buhupan Passinsu Patwa Dwadasa Dam. Like that. This is mentioned in Mahavansa, the great chronicle written in Sri Lanka. This explained that the diplomatic of the Sri Lankan king returned to Sri Lanka from the Mauryan kingdom through the Tamralipti port, and it took almost 12 days to reach in the court of Devanampiyatissa. Tissa. As a result of this mission, Sri Lanka king got the surname Devanampiya from the king of Ashoka as an icon of honor to him. After the arrival of Mahinda Thera, within few months, Sangamitta arrival. This is very important actually, dear my friends. Today is the full moon day, Purnima day. In the same Purnima day, we call Unduap this month in the Buddhist tradition. This is the Poya day, full moon day, which we receive both three from the India. It's very coincident things. 2236 BC it arrived, and now it's the 2023 plus 2036. It's a remarkable day because this is the Purnima day, and actually I got surprised early in the morning. I watch internet, and this is Purnima day, and this is we celebrating the Sangamitta because she brought the both three this particular Poya day to a full day. So after the Mahinda arrival, within the few months, Sangamitta arrival with the sacred Bodhri tree happened. It is mentioned that the great emperor Dharmasoka traveled up to Tamralipta port to see the Sangamitta carrying a branch of Bodhi tree to Sri Lanka. This was also made from the Tamralipti port. This is a very significant fact that I mentioned. It's mentioned in Mahavansa also as this. I have mentioned all the, especially this article will be published next magazine, and so I am not going to read everything. I will mention the sixth gatha like this. Nagara nikka mitwana Vinja atavi Tamraliptim anupatto satta he neva bhumipi. They took 6 days from our city to reach this port. This is mentioned in our Mahavansa. And the other important, this is actually another very important point. I am not going to read this because of the limitation of time. With the Sangamitta, 18 caste system, that means carpenters and building makers and farmers, 18 castes, the caste means craftsmen, came to Sri Lanka with their family, and established, and we have rich architecture system and maritime tradition. It started due to this Sangamitta's arrival. So it's very important this day, and thank you so much. Even coincidentally, we organized this same day. I am very honored to speak about Sangamitta and this day. Okay, the other important things, even today, even in the king's period, if you want to become a king, you should have the tooth relic with you. Even today it's same. So this also came from Tamaralipta. As mentioned, it was in India, and with the some political issue, the king Guhasya decided to send in with his daughter to Sri Lanka to protect Dantadhatu, or we call tooth relic. It is a World Heritage is situated in Kandy. It's also sent to India from this Tamaralipti port. Then I mentioned Vijayagamana. We civilized from this area, and then we brought Buddhism from this area, and we got our culture, construction, everything with the Botri from this Tamaralipti port, and finally we got tooth relic from also. Actually, I am planned to discuss about the modern relationship. Actually, I should mention, I think it's his famous Anagarik Dharmapala, who saved the Bodh Gaya and contribute his life for Indian Buddhism, actually to protect Buddhism in here. With his, he started Calcutta Mahabodhi Society and even Bodh Gaya. So actually I am not going to take much time. You can read this. Actually, one thing, please pardon me, I want to speak something.
10 দেশের পতাকা উত্তোলিত
Something I should take few minutes. Actually, for the youngster who are with us today, actually we all discuss about this Buddhism and the relationship. Actually, what I believe is Buddhism is not our, it's from India. Even everything we got, even I speak Sanskrit to encourage you. As a Sanskrit scholar, I dedicated my life to Sanskrit, actually, other than Buddhism. And our Swami ji is there. Swami, actually my subject is Vedanta philosophy in Buddhism. I have got chance more than Buddhism to teach. I teach Brahma Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Sutra, all the 6 systems of the philosophy in my department. What I am trying to say this, actually these are not, we should not demarcate actually. This is Buddhism, this is history, this is Hinduism, like that. We can be proud, this is Indian. Even we like, when we Janaman like that, when we sing your anthem, we feel it's ourselves. So we should be proud. And if you have Buddhism, for example, last few weeks ago, I was in Beijing with the Buddhist forum. All monks were around the world. Unfortunately, we had no any single monk from India. Where Buddhism was originated. If you can, because this very powerful nowadays, even Hinduism and Buddhism. Normally, I do not like to demarcate this. Our philosophy is highly demanded in Western, European, everything. I always watch Swami Sarvapriyanandaji's speech, and it's very inspired for me from the Vedanta Society of the California. And they have not Western worlds, they like it and they follow it. Even one very young child speaks very well. Actually, we should know. Actually, I request all the youngsters and adults to encourage, learn first Sanskrit, then Pali. These are our roots. If we know Sanskrit, if we know Pali, if we know Buddhism, if we know Hinduism, Rigveda, Upanishad, everything, we are proud ourselves. Then we can do something better. The most important thing is the culture. If we have like this culture, we can develop. And final point, actually, our Sri Lankan people very respect to India. It's the Buddha Bhumi, Jambu Deepa, we call it. Then we come to India, and it's the political matter. You earn much money from Sri Lanka from the tourism, because more than. But the unfortunate thing is, even my childhood, I want to visit when the Bihar and Uttar Pradesh to the Calcutta. but my organizer said there is no any place to visit in Calcutta. So if you have some cultural or Buddhist ruins or something, you can even promote your life also. So thank you so much, and sorry for taking much time for this. Actually, this will be discussed in future, and this is only beginning. We can continue together. Thank you for our Dr. Tanis Rotero inviting for the young Buddhist scholars and youngs, because we have time to spend in our future. So let's work together. Sang Vadaddam, Sangachadam, and Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Bhavantu Niramya. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your kind presentation. Thank you, sir. Just 2 minutes. Please. Yes, yes, yes. Dulan is must. Dulan, please. Please come. So I would like to request Swamiji, please come on dais. Secretary Maharaj from Tamluk Ramakrishna Mission. Please, Swamiji. আমরা একদম শেষ পর্যায়ে চলে এসেছি, আর বেশি সময় নেব না। স্বামীজি কিছু বলবেন।
আমি খুব সংক্ষেপে দু একটি কথা বলছি। জাস্ট এক্ষুনি যে মহারাজ যে কথাটি বলছিলেন, সারা বিশ্ব আমাদের দিকে তাকিয়ে আছে, সারা ভারতের দিকে তাকিয়ে আছে। আমরা জানি না আমাদের সংস্কৃতির কতটা রত্ন ভাণ্ডার, আরে কতটা রত্ন আছে। এই রত্নকে আমরা আহরণ করতে আমরা পারছি না, তার জন্য আমরা বাইরের জগতে ঘুরে বেড়াই। আমরা যদি আমাদের সংস্কৃতিকে যদি জানতাম, তাহলে আর সারা বিশ্বে ঘুরতে হতো না। স্বামী বিবেকানন্দ বারবার বলেছেন পাশ্চাত্য এবং পাশ্চাত্যের মিলন। পাশ্চাত্যের যে উন্নত কারিগরি বিদ্যা অবশ্যই আমাদের গ্রহণ করতে হবে, এবং ভারতের যে অধ্যাত্ম বিদ্যা তা সারা বিশ্বকে দিতে হবে। স্বামী বিবেকানন্দের সাথে ভগবান বুদ্ধের গভীর সম্পর্ক ছিল। তিনি যখন ছোটোবেলায় তিনি যখন পড়ার টেবিলে, তখন তিনি ভগবান বুদ্ধ দেখছেন, হঠাৎ করে ওয়ালের মধ্যে এসে গেছেন, দেওয়ালের মধ্যে দাঁড়িয়ে আছেন। তিনি ভয়ে ছুটে পালিয়েছেন। তিনি আরেকবার দেখছেন কৃষ্ণদ্বীপে ভগবান বুদ্ধকে, তিনি রাত্রে বিশ্রাম করছিলেন, হঠাৎ করে স্বপ্ন দেখেন এখানেই সেই। অর্থাৎ রামকৃষ্ণ মিশনের সাথে ভগবান বুদ্ধের প্রতি ভগবান বুদ্ধের হৃদয় আমাদের খুবই প্রয়োজন বর্তমান দিনে। তার হৃদয়কে গ্রহণ করা, ভারতীয় সংস্কৃতিকে গ্রহণ করা, ভারতীয় সংস্কৃতির গভীরে কী আছে তা জানা, আমাদের সংস্কৃতিকে জানা, ভারতবর্ষকে জানা। যাই হোক, আমি আর বেশি সময় নিচ্ছি না, আমি এই বক্তব্য রেখে আমার সংক্ষিপ্ত আলোচনা এখানে শেষ করছি। সকলকে অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ।
ধন্যবাদ মহারাজ। আর 2 মিনিট সময় নেব। আমাদের মধ্যে একজন রিসার্চ স্কলার রয়ে আছেন, কৃতি সুন্দর পাল। প্লিজ কাম অন ডায়াস, প্লিজ। 2 মিনিট, বেশি সময় নেব না।
নমস্কার সবাইকে, আমার শ্রদ্ধা জানিয়ে আমি কিছু বলার চেষ্টা করছি। আমার বিষয় হচ্ছে প্রাচীন তাম্রলিপ্তে সাহিত্য ও সংস্কৃতিতে বৌদ্ধ প্রভাব। প্রাচীন তাম্রলিপ্তে সম্রাট অশোকের সময় থেকেই বৌদ্ধ ধর্মের বিস্তৃতি লাভ করেছিল, এবং অশোকের চেষ্টার ফলেই তাম্রলিপ্তে যে বৌদ্ধ ধর্মের বিস্তার ঘটেছিল সেটা আমরা বিভিন্ন গ্রন্থে আলোচনা বা ঐতিহাসিকদের বই পড়ে আমরা জানতে পেরেছি। এছাড়াও চৈনিক পরিব্রাজক হিউয়েন সাংয়ের বিবরণ থেকে জানা যায় তিনি অন্যান্য জনপদের সঙ্গে তাম্রলিপ্ত মৌর্য সম্রাট অশোকের তৈরি বৌদ্ধ স্তূপ বিহার দেখেছিলেন। সম্ভবত অশোকের আমলেই আমাদের তাম্রলিপ্তের বৌদ্ধ ধর্মের প্রচার শুরু হয়, এবং 7ম শতকে শেষ পর্যন্ত এখানে বৌদ্ধ ধর্মের প্রাধান্যের পরিচয় প্রত্নতত্ত্ব, সাহিত্য, সংস্কৃতি থেকেও পাওয়া যায়। আমাদের এই তমলুকের আশেপাশে অঞ্চলে অনেক কিছু প্রত্নতত্ত্ব পাওয়া গিয়েছে, যা আমাদের তমলুক মিউজিয়ামে আছে, আশুতোষ মিউজিয়ামেও আছে। এছাড়াও তমলুকের আশেপাশে অঞ্চল যেমন বাহারি, মোগলমারি আর তিল্লাগঞ্জ বলে একটি জায়গা আছে, এইসব জায়গাও পাওয়া গেছে। এইসব দেখে আমাদের মনে হয় যে এই যে বৌদ্ধ ধর্ম, তার যে সাহিত্য সংস্কৃতি এই তমলুকে একটা একটা প্রধান কেন্দ্র ছিল। আমরা সারাদিন ধরে আলোচনা শুনেছি, অনেক আমরা নিজেদের সমৃদ্ধ করতে পেরেছি। সময় শেষের পথে আমি এইটুকু বক্তব্য রেখে যে সঞ্চালক স্যার কাঞ্চনবাবুকে আমার ধন্যবাদ এবং আপনাদের ধন্যবাদ জানিয়ে আমার ছোট্ট বক্তব্য শেষ করছি। নমস্কার।
ধন্যবাদ কৃষ্ণচন্দ্র পাল, রিসার্চ করার, ইয়ং রিসার্চ করার। আমরা নিশ্চয়ই ভবিষ্যতে আরও কিছু আশা করবো তোমার কাছ থেকে। ধন্যবাদ কৃতি সুন্দর। তো গোবিন্দবাবু, আমরা কি প্রসেসর রেডি? ক্লোজিং সিরিমনি শেষ করব। আচার্য ম্যাম তো পাশেই আছেন। একটা ক্লোজিং কিছু প্লিজ কাম হেয়ার। আমরা অলরেডি লাস্ট অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমরা এখন প্রসেস করে যাব। তুমি ক্লোজিং সেরিমনিটা করে দাও প্লিজ। কাম অন ডায়াস। কিছু একটা ছোট্ট 2-3 মিনিট, মেবি ক্লোজিং সং, মেবি।
Thank you, sir. I am already honored to be here, so I can finish the beautiful program with Rabindra Sangeet, which is from the Parjay, Puja Parjay, and I can sing the main portion, the Sthai and Antara, and I can translate it from Maithili language. So I can start it. বহে নিরন্তর অনন্ত আনন্দ ধারা, বহে নিরন্তর অনন্ত আনন্দ ধারা, বাজে অসীম নভ মাঝে অনাদি রব, বাজে অসীম নভ মাঝে অনাদি রব, জাগে অগণ্য রবি চন্দ্র তারা, বহে নিরন্তর অনন্ত আনন্দ ধারা, বহে নিরন্তর অনন্ত আনন্দ ধারা, একক অখণ্ড ব্রহ্মাণ্ড রাজে, পরম এক সেই রাজ রাজেন্দ্র রাজে, একক অখণ্ড ব্রহ্মাণ্ড রাজে, পরম এক সেই রাজ রাজেন্দ্র রাজে, বিস্মিত নিমেষ হত বিশ্ব চরণে বিনত, বিস্মিত নিমেষ হত বিশ্ব চরণে বিনত, লক্ষ শত ভক্ত চিত বাক্য হারা, বহে নিরন্তর অনন্ত আনন্দ ধারা, বহে নিরন্তর অনন্ত আনন্দ ধারা, দুঃখ 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 দলানি করু দেবী নমস্কার।
বেশ খুব সুন্দর, খুব মিষ্টি গলা তোমার, খুব সুন্দর হয়েছে। তো হ্যাঁ, নাও উই মে প্রসিড ফর বুদ্ধ পার্ক। অ্যাকচুয়ালি ভেহিকল ইজ রেডি না গোবিন্দ স্যার? vehicle where this? So we all will proceed for inauguration of one statue in Buddha Park. Vehicle is outside, so we all will proceed for today. Okay. Thank you to you all.